Hello, Savannah. Hello, Savannah. What commitment this is. I am coming to you on Memorial Day. Wow. First, I want to say thank you to all of those who serve our country. I want to also say to all of the families whose loved ones sacrificed their life for the freedom that we enjoy today. Thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There are no words to express their intrepid heroism. There are no words to describe the heroes that fought long and hard for our country. Yet, here we are today. So as you all enjoy this day of relaxation, as you enjoy this day with family and friends over good food and awesome fellowship, remember the freedoms that we as Americans enjoy. While we have a lot of issues, a lot of issues related to us as Americans, there is no other country. There is no other country I'd rather live in than the great United States of America. And that's a fact. So while we continue to work on those pieces and those issues that we do have concern for, we do not want to do a disservice or injustice to the integrity and the value that individuals dedicate so that we can enjoy simple freedoms. So with that, I'm coming to you today as a free citizen who can speak freely and speak matter-of-factly and candidly about issues facing our city. During the last city council meeting, there were a lot of items on the agenda. I'm not going to taint today's session with a lot of what I become disturbed by as your alderwoman at large, the shenanigans that go on under the Gold Dome. I do, however, want to pause and acknowledge my sentiments and my regrets to Alderwoman Alicia Miller Blakely. As an elected official, she was disallowed entry into the revenue department or into the building where the revenue department is housed, and that's the Coastal Georgia Center, where she was attempting to pay her water bill because someone from the street committee, average, regular, everyday Joe Blow, called and said that they were doing an expose on everybody's outstanding water bills. And we know we've had issues with our water bills in Savannah, the water bill management of such. And so not to be used as an example in that she has been targeted by the department because she has actively worked to help citizens not lose their property. She's been giving information out to citizens. If your name is on a delinquent tax roll, to go pay your taxes. Go pay your taxes so that your property isn't taken. And it's been quite disturbing for us because we know that in this during this pandemic and times of COVID, individuals have suffered financially for several reasons. And I'm sure a delinquent property tax is an issue for some people. It probably was pre-COVID, but we know that people have had pre-COVID implications in their lives forever in a day, particularly here in Savannah, where the rate of poverty is almost twice the national average. And, there's so much going on. We have individuals who are working in industries where they're getting less than $10 an hour. So yeah, we're working hard, and she has been one council person who has worked tremendously, tirelessly to help people not lose their property. And does she have to do it? No. Is it against the law for her to do it? No. But is it good for her to do it? Yes, because she was elected to serve the people. And I know there are some who haven't seen this level of stewardship in some time in their elected officials, but we're different. And you're worth it, Savannah. And so I was incensed when I learned that she was not allowed access. And I was even more incensed when I learned that my name was on the list also. um, let's go on to people, plastics, and priorities, please. We'll get back to that. In the meantime, I'm so happy to introduce my guest today. I am so happy to introduce my guest today. On that agenda was also a resolution I attempted to get introduced for 2 meetings. And finally, you know, I'm not one of those older people who have to get credit for this work. I just want the work to be done, right? But there were a group of citizens who connected with me and said, this is what they want. And I'm all about giving our local government back to the people. If we go broke, we're going to go broke giving it back to the people, and they decide what to do. But in this instance, I am so happy to be a part of this success of introducing and having the passage of a resolution that would allow us to forego single-use plastics, thereby protecting our waterways and our environment. Further, we want to continuously educate our constituency on why this is important and why it should be a goal, not only for our companies, our restaurants, and our businesses, but also for our households, because our future depends on it. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you my guest lineup for tonight that I'm so, so proud of. Starting with the great senator from Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse. How awesome is it to have you with us on Memorial Day? And then followed by him, the great mayor, the first African-American female mayor, the African-American and female mayor of Clarkston. Thank you so much, Mayor Burks, for joining us. And then Carmalitha Gumbs from South Fulton. Hey, I got some heavyweight in the house tonight. I need you all to like, share. Bring your ribs, bring your chicken, bring your beer, sit down. Make sure your water is in a glass container, whatever. And we want you all to reduce and reuse and then recycle. Paulita, because guess what? Before we recycle, we need to reuse, but we need to forego also, right? Listen, y'all, Miss Paulita Bennett Martin is the new hero of Savannah, Georgia. Tonight, we are going to talk about people, plastics, and our priorities and where they are. This is just part 1. And I have convinced these individuals to join me for part 2. We want to just give you a taste of what it looks like to be a community that is aligned with adopting goals that are consistent with becoming plastics free and why that is important. Paulita, you and I connected over a year ago, just as we were adopting our 100% clean energy plan. And I said, you know what sense does it make to be concerned about light bulbs if we're not concerned about plastics? And so why can't we do all of this in totality? And tell us, Paulita, how did we go from that talking point over a year ago to where we are today? And then I want to give kudos and shots out to your intrepid team of activists. Listen, I could not respond to all of the emails, but you all were on us like, what they say, white on rice. They were sending emails, they were calling and asking us to vote. Yes, and we did. And we just want to say thank you. And I want others who are passionate about an issue or a goal to ascribe to the same formula and method as these anti-plastics activists have. If you are concerned about poverty, gun violence, homelessness, healthcare, whatever it is, mobilize, engage, have a collective voice, and have someone petition via letter, email, phone calls. We belong to you. Paulita, tell us, how did you do it?
Absolutely. One word, community. It was all about community coming together. I think, Alderwoman, you back when you were working with the Climate Reality Project of Coastal Georgia on the 100% clean energy resolution. And I think it's really important for people to realize how connected these issues are. If we're talking about working to protect our communities from climate change, we also have to recognize that plastic pollution plays a role in climate, right? One of the biggest things that people know about climate is they see it as litter. They see it as something that's already been created and already in our water or on our neighborhood streets, right? But there's an entire process in making and extracting what it takes to make plastics. So we connected through the work that you are already doing on climate with the 100% energy resolution. And a lot of the activists that were involved in that realized that plastics was an important issue as well. So we started talking about that and how it plays a role in climate. And from there, business owners step up to the plate. You have business owners here in Savannah who have recently launched their own closed loop industries, which are businesses that do not use single-use plastic at all. And you have activists and local elected leaders that all cared about this issue very much, and coming together as community, figuring out what the right solution could be, and taking that first step is how we got to where we are right now.
Yes, and you said something, how we are all connected. And that connectivity is essentially how I first met you, Senator Whitehouse. And I know you only have a few minutes to spare with us, but I asked you to come on tonight and you obliged right away. Sir, thank you for just being a great community servant, not only to your people, but to those in your neighboring states as well. And those of us who are far away. My husband often teases me about geography. I know Savannah is not a neighbor to Rhode Island, Sam. Listen, I first met you when you were sort of stumping for Ossoff and Warnock, but you were not remiss in acknowledging your passion for our oceans and our waterways and these pieces related to plastics, and that you tied in the importance of them being elected and how we can collectively nationwide achieve these goals. What does this all mean to you when you see communities like South Fulton and Clarkston rapidly adopting these resolutions? How proud are you? What does this mean for you?
Well, Alderwoman, it's very exciting, and I'm really proud of you. So let me start with a big thank you to you and to Savannah for adopting the anti-single-use plastics resolution. We all share a common ocean. We're all on the Atlantic together. Your plastics can end up on my coast. My plastics can end up on your coast, and cleaning them up together is the way to go forward. So you've set a really wonderful example, and I'm grateful to you and I'm proud of you. I've got to say, as a member of the United States Senate, I'm also grateful to you and proud of you for helping send John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock up to the Senate. What a difference it has made to have Mitch McConnell out of the majority leader position and to have Democrats able to set the agenda. Now, he's still going to obstruct and be as much of a menace as he possibly can, but at least we have the right to set the agenda. And I'll close with a big thank you and hello to Paulita Bennett Martin, because when I came down to work Georgia for Raphael and for John, I hired Paulita to help organize in the coastal community and in the environmental community along your coast, so that when people went into that election booth, they were thinking coasts, they were thinking oceans, they were thinking sea level, they were thinking pollution, they were thinking cleaning all of that up. So it's really exciting for me to be with you, Alderwoman Gibson Carter. I'm really grateful to you for inviting me, and I congratulate all of you for what you have accomplished. This is really wonderful, and it shows the power of the people and the power of the grounds up and the grassroots to get the big things done that we need to do together.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time on Memorial Day to take a break away from your family and friends and share congratulations with the city of Savannah. And when you join us next, Senator Whitehouse, myself here in Savannah, as well as Clarkston and South Fulton, our council member here, Councilwoman Gumbs, and my dear friend and mentor, Mayor Burks, I want you to come back, because now that we have introduced, now that we have adopted, we are now ready to move forth with implementation and rollout. And what we don't want is a slow road. And we don't want this to be something that's going to take 3, 5, or 10 years. And so we want you to be thinking about offering us recommendations, suggestions, and input on how we can go from here to there. So we'll see you next week, maybe.
Will do. You can lure me down with a soft shell crab anytime. Thanks, Alderwoman. Much appreciated. Mayor, it's an honor to be on with you. Councilwoman, thank you so much. And Paulita, wonderful to see you again. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. And Paulita is a good egg. Thank you. And so with that, I am so encouraged that to have this collective support in our state, but also across the United States. And this is what we need. And I thought it was very important to have you on, Mayor Burks, to share with us, because you and I had talked about what you were doing in Clarkston. And then Paulita sends me this information where she's done this research and she's talking about the various communities who've done this, that, and the third. And I see Clarkston. And I'm like, wait. I was like, wait a minute, that's family. And so tell me, what was the impetus for the initiation of you all taking this step? What has it been like, and what are you doing now?
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to be on the show with you today on Memorial Day. And so for me, I want to make sure that I recognize my environmental community. It is chaired by our Vice Mayor, Awet Yassif. And so that was something that the environmental committee started pre-COVID, talking about single-use plastics. And so with COVID, it kind of put a pause on us really moving forward, because we wanted to go full throttle, everything with the businesses, everything. But because of COVID and a lot of our businesses, particularly we have a lot of small immigrant businesses in our community, we wanted to kind of wait. And so when I came into office, that's when I kind of talked to Paulita, and she pushed me. And it wasn't even a push. It was like, let's go. Let's get this going. Let's get it on the books. I was like, I'm ready to do it. And it took nothing for us in the council to do it. The beauty of my community is we love to do recycling. We believe in conservation. We believe in reducing our carbon footprint. So for us, it was meaningful for us to take this initial step. So we did it from a city perspective, to say from a city, we will kind of stop and eliminate our usage of single-use plastics. And then we're moving towards an educational component with our businesses, providing them the resources so that they can see that they can do that transition, and then implement the second phase where we do that with our businesses.
So how unique is that? Because your community per capita, you have one of the most diverse communities in the state of Georgia, if not the nation.
So we have 13,000 people in our community. We have people from over 50 different countries in a 1.5 square mile radius. We have an enormous amount of our refugee and immigrant populations in our communities, as well as our African Americans and whites. But what's important is that we understand that what we do today has long-term effects, not only for us, but for generations to come. And that with the usage of plastic, and especially the single-use plastic, that it is something that sits in landfills. And what's very scary is that what we don't think about is the environmental inequities that many of us face as a result of the usage of single-use plastics. And so and I always talk about this, look at it from a system perspective, from the manufacturing of it, consumption, and as well as the disposal of it. You'll see through that whole process that environmental inequities face people of color. And so when we have these discussions and we're talking about all of this, in addition to making sure that we want to reduce our carbon footprint, we also have to be mindful of what this is doing to our communities and where they put the disposal systems, typically in communities of color, right? Typically they have fracking and everything else related to the manufacturing of that in communities of color. And so that's a health issue, that's an environmental issue. And all of these things play into why it's so important that we don't think about it not only from what we're doing from a city, but we look at it globally. So when you think about 2 years ago, from a United States perspective, we exported over 1 billion pounds of plastic to 96 countries, including many countries in Africa. And so what typically happens is you drink that disposable bottle, you drink and use that straw, but you don't think of where it goes. And you don't think about how long it lives after you consume it. So that's why the whole piece of making sure that we do the educational piece is critical, to make sure that people understand this isn't just an inconvenience for you for today. It is to ensure that we have a legacy for our children and our children's children of an environment that will be safe for them to see. So that's something that really drove me to make sure that we did this. Because again, you say a straw, I'm looking at the ecosystem. I'm looking at it from a health perspective. I'm looking at all of these different factors that are critical when you make this decision to change over and stop using single-use plastic.
Yes. And environmental inequity, that's a term, a phrase I haven't quite wrapped my head around yet. And we have a lot, we can do a whole show on environmental inequity and environmental opportunity and what that looks like. And Paulita, we know near and dear friend of ours here locally, one of my mentors, one of my former teachers, Dr. Mildred McLean, who is huge on environmental equity and what it looks like when we start to roll out these pieces. And so I'm going to be participating in some sessions she'll be hosting, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to introduce her to you all as well, so that we continue to tackle this from all approaches. And Councilwoman Gumbs, this is why I'm so excited to connect with you, because you said something that really triggered a thought. And I was like, wow. You stated, what sense is it for us to adopt a resolution like this? What sense is it for us to align ourselves with goals like this if our neighbors are not? Especially when our neighbors are a stone's throw from us. In addition to talking about what it looks like to have our neighbors participate, which you've done in South Fulton, but let's also wrap up, Councilwoman Gumbs, with what we need to do as members of our local government, as members of our communities, and as activists on the state level. Help us understand how we can mobilize and start lobbying our state representatives. I know that there was Senate Bill 434, and I can't remember the councilwoman who is actively involved in that charge, but talk to us about neighboring communities and what we can do as a state.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. And this forum is exciting, and it just, my heart I'm excited. And we need to keep having these type of conversations, because again, as I shared before, we have to tell the narrative, no matter how tough it may be. I think, people need to know what we are doing and understand the impact that we can have on the state of Georgia overall. So as Mayor Burks, and we could have just went home based off of what Mayor Burks has said about the environmental inequities, period. I mean, she eloquently spoke to why this is so important. But again, the sense of it all is that one city can do it. And then, like you said, we're stone throws away. So we're very close to Atlanta. We're also close to East Point, the city of East Point, and College Park. I mean, you could just walk maybe 1 mile and you could be in that city. So with some of the businesses, if we are not taking an active approach as a municipality universally, it kind of, dampens what we're trying to do or what we're trying to accomplish. Some cities have to be educated on what we're doing. So I'm hoping that Paulita will begin to start reaching out to our neighboring cities, as well as us as the people that have started this implementation process to get our cities or other cities on board. But we do need a voice. And again, like I said, we have to tell that narrative. So Alderwoman Carter, I hope you are writing up newsletters and press releases and getting the news to be all on it, because again, as I shared with Mayor Burks, people need to see the activity, and then other members of local government will be ready to take it on. Senator James, I know here in this area of South Fulton, has worked on some legislation, and also too, I believe is Senator Harrell, and she's had they've had a rough time even just getting it across the border. So again, local, I think with more cities doing it, people will begin to understand. And plus, I prefer to do it as cities because I don't want the state kind of telling us what to do. But again,
we definitely appreciate that home rule, right?
But I think it's an awesome opportunity. My rollout was very different from a lot of us. Again, I think I started studying this probably in late 2018. We actually implemented it in October of 2019, giving businesses at least 6 months to a year to start implementing the changeover, and small businesses were giving actually a longer period than the larger chains. And we stopped it. Also, we placed a moratorium because of the pandemic. COVID. So in that process, we were trying to really get residents engaged, understanding what we were doing, and then just continuing to educate. And then in, I believe it was March, we went on ahead and, implemented it full force. It was not the easiest rollout. There were some steps missed, as I can be very transparent about it. But again, partnerships and your relationships with the environmental groups is very helpful. So definitely learn from my mistakes of, wanting to create that positivity of why this is so important. And, it is good to talk with other cities as well, because you want to share those best practices so that this can be seamless and, the community is not super, super upset. But the community, some people loved it, some people didn't. I remember growing up, I didn't use a lot of plastics. I remember making book covers and designing, our books in high school. So the mayor and I have been talking about kind of implementing that kind of coloring contest with some of our schools, making those book colors. So making it more amenable to the community and understanding that people don't like change, but change is good. And this is a good change for our environment.
And, and that's what everything, to your point, there will be proponents and there will be opponents of anything you introduce. And I go back to the stop sign and the red light. I'm sure people didn't want a stop sign. I'm sure they didn't want a red light, but guess what? It saved lives, right? And I am convinced that this is going to save our planet, and it's going to save the future of our world. And with that, as you were speaking, I thought about this initiative and how it was highly politicized during our election season in 2019. And what I have been determined to do is to not politicize this at all. And that's why I said it doesn't matter who gets the credit for it. It doesn't matter who introduced it. It doesn't matter who voted yes, who seconded the motion. I don't give a hill of beans. But what I do care about is that we do it with intentionality. We do it with sincerity, and we do it with sincerity in terms of prioritizing this initiative for Savannah. We are a neighbor to Tybee Island. The points you made, Councilwoman Gumbs, to with regard to how important this is for our neighbors to adopt these initiatives in tandem to our rollout, because we are so close, right? In addition, we want to acknowledge that while the previous administration sort of kind of ignored this, we do not want to spoon feed activists and individuals and making them think that they're getting something that they're not. Because right now, as I stated to you, Paulita, our resolution really doesn't have any teeth to it if it's voluntary, right? And so what we want to do is we want to start acknowledging that we want to be deliberate and we want to be intentional in how we roll out these next steps. In rolling out these next steps, and this is what I said to the group when I was campaigning in 2019 at the Independent Church. Was it an Independent Church? What church was that, Paulita? Over on the
The
square.
Unitarian Church?
Universalist. What was it? Unitarian?
Unitarian Universalist Church.
Yes. I said to them, we can't do anything without a goal, without an objective. And the objective is essentially a step to how we're going to achieve the goal with a timeline, right? When are we going to achieve it? And then we want to hold people accountable. Who is going to help us achieve this, that, and the third, right? And so, one, we don't want to politicize this. We don't want to continue to cry over spilled milk. But what we also want to do is we want to incentivize this program, because we do know that lots of people are going to face trepidation as they approach this. Are these materials going to be more expensive? What's going to happen to our service delivery, if you will? So we want to be practical about this, but we want to be serious about it as well. And so some of the suggestions I've made is creating a green tab on our website, on our city website, to let citizens who visit Savannah know that these restaurants, these establishments are our green establishments. So those visitors to Savannah who are serious about environment, they can have those restaurants and those businesses as first choice to patronize, if you will. So we can make those incremental steps. And for me, because new rollouts and new initiatives, because citizens can't tell if this is some political feather some politician is trying to get, or if this is something where a politician is getting a kickback on some cups or whatever it is, we want to start to increase trust levels. How do we do that? Well, you do it through information, you do it through education, and you do it through awareness. So I would like to see our locality, as well as yours, connect with our school districts, because guess who will lead the way? Our youth.
Exactly.
They will lead the way. So let's start thinking out of the box and how we can have them engage as well. Are there any closing thoughts or remarks that you all have?
Well, I want to make sure, and Councilwoman Gumbs brought up the point. I want us to kind of think about things that can help you along the process, that we kind of learn to make sure that you establish those relationships with the environmental organizations and partners who can help with the businesses transition to stop using those single-use products so that they have alternatives. I think that's very important that you make sure you include that. I think it's also very important that you think about the types of campaigns that you want to launch, especially if you're talking about for children and other individuals. I think it's important that you think about how we did with the seatbelts. The same kind of things and the way we did in promoting the seatbelts should be the same way that we do the single-use plastics. And then just kind of, as you said, giving incentives instead of always giving the stick, to make sure that we encourage and we acknowledge and we really push those individuals who go the extra mile to make the change. I think all of those things are very important. And making sure as constituents that you hold your elected people accountable.
That's right.
Because this is something that is very important, and as I emphasized before, this also involves the bigger system, the ecosystem. So when you think about people enjoying Savannah, enjoying the coastal, but you have ties around turtles' necks and all those things, we are doing that. And so it is our responsibility to stop that from happening. So by showing how every little bit makes a difference and showing what we can do to improve the situation, all of those things are really critical.
Mhm. I would like to share. I think one of the things that has worked for us is we have a lot of new businesses coming into the city of South Fulton. So we have been directly and strategically working with those new businesses, letting them know about our ordinance. And then also too, we have our code enforcement who has teamed up with also helping to educate the existing businesses that are in the area. We're not finding them, we're just, going out, educating them and letting them know, about the single plastic use ordinance. But we've had much success with a lot of the new businesses coming into the community. So I think that is one way to also, really impact change. And then we've had videos, we've done, communication. So we're trying to get the message out there. But again, it is so great to see other cities do it, because that shows that we can make a larger impact on a more global scale. So I need more cities to get on board with this. Of course, we're the first. We're going to get it. We're going to catch the backlash. But also at the same time, we know that, this is a good thing in the end. I can't even tell you how many emails or, good. I've gotten a lot of good feedback versus the negative feedback. So just hang in there, Alderwoman Carter. It will be great. Just get your strategy down, and we're here to support you. So I'll start talking to my other neighbors and see if they can get it. But I know I don't know. We're gonna need you, Paulita. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, I'm just a little anxious, and sometimes I get a little hot and bothered. I want things to happen for our community and for our citizens as fast as it happens for legacy contractors and developers. And I digress.
Well, you know what, and I have to say, I'm going to have to say, as a mayor, I'm very excited that my council did this, because they voted this in, and it was a unanimous vote. And so I always humbled by my council, because while I'm the mayor, they vote the stuff, all of our ordinances in. And so, I work with my council, and I'm very grateful that they all are on the same page. And when you do that, that's a wonderful thing. And so we're moving forward, and I'm gonna reach out to my other mayors in DeKalb County to see if they're willing to participate. But again, I always make sure I give my council 100% for their support and wanting to move things forward. And so we're here for you. We're here for Savannah. We're here for Georgia. And we're here to make this a movement and make sure that people understand why this is so important. And it was funny, because I was talking about this with someone, and they said, "Are you the reason why I have to use paper bags now?" And I said, "Well, yes." I said, "But also I want to make sure that you understand, don't use a large plastic reusable bag, because guess what? You had to have plastic to make that bag." And so that's why it's very important that the education piece is there. So from a city perspective, you can also do things like give out cloth bags to your residents to encourage that type of behavior. I know Councilwoman Gumbs talked about they had reusable straws that they gave out to their community and their constituents. So there's a lot of things that you can do and think about, especially as we're starting to open up and we have these events, to make sure that when we have events that we're leading by example. So it is extremely important that we think about those things and how we can stop using the single-use product there, so that we can show by example.
Well, Mayor Burks, you are such an inspiration, and you have been from day one. You're a blessing to Clarkston, a blessing to Georgia, and again, you've been an inspiration to me, and you've been a great example of how the job is supposed to be. So listen, I'm going to hold you to the promise that I forced you to make, and we're going to have a longer conversation, and we're going to see where we are in just a couple days, and what we can report back on in terms of those next steps. Paulita, your work is not done, my friend. You have a lot more work to do.
Oh, yeah.
And we are so happy to have your boots on the ground as you go forth. And I want to respond to one of the questions. I tell you, Mayor Burks, you know, this is the one thing I did not want to do because I did not run for public office to do Facebook Live shows. But, you know,
It's good though.
until I can get to the policy table, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this until I get to the policy table. But in the interim, one of our viewers mentioned the weeping time. I am very, very passionate about the weeping time. And yes, I am certain that Senator Whitehouse knows about the weeping time, as does Senator Ossoff, as does Senator Warnock. So what I need you to do, sir, is to follow back up to them and say, are you going to move on the request Alderwoman Gibson Carter made? So yes, we are hitting it double time, overtime, all the time, weeping time. Listen, my friends, I will see you all next week if God says the same. And in the meantime, let's remain plastics free. Thank you so much for joining me on this Memorial Day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.